TJ Morris, and you're listening to Cosmos Radio and what we call ACIR Radio. And we are sharing this on TJ Morris ETRadio and everywhere else. So, all you guys out there, wherever you are, Spotify, iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, FM radio, Blueberry, whatever it is, we're out there. So, thank you for listening. And we're hoping to make history and archive it. So, I've created ACO Club. And we're starting this year with American Communications Online, and we're moving all our archives over to my big Amazon web service, which is huge, from all our little blogs that we've had for years. And I've asked a gentleman from Pennsylvania that I got sort of a psychic hit off. I'm not sure. He probably knows a lot more about it than I do. I run mostly logical investigative reports, and I'm going to go into radio with the idea that 8 years experience of just recording people is going to help us in our club. But this gentleman's name is Lon Strickler, and I hope I'm saying that right, and he is an American born in the USA. I'm promoting American Communications Online with him as the ACO Club, and he's agreed to join me on one of my radio shows this week. But I wanted to get to know him a little better and differently, because sometimes, I have plenty of people that get in touch with me in social media to be on my shows, but I'm sort of picky. So Lon said he would sort of help me. We're going to do those that are career people and those like professionals and those that are hobbyists. And I'm going to get him to educate me because he's been doing this a lot longer than I have. So Lon, would you like to introduce yourself for me, please?
Yeah, my name is Lon Strickler. I'm a Fortean researcher, author, and writer at the Phantoms and Monsters blog, and I'm also a host at Arcane Radio. Now, I've been a Fortean researcher. Oh my God, it's been a long time, but I'd say I've been involved with the paranormal for about 40 years now. And the blog started in 2005 and has steadily grown in popularity and read daily by tens of thousands of paranormal enthusiasts and investigators. My research and reports have been featured on hundreds of online media sources. Several of these published reports have been presented on various television segments, including the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, Sci-Fi's Paranormal Witness, Fact or Fake Paranormal Files, and Destination America's Monsters and Mysteries in America. And I've been interviewed on several radio broadcasts, including multiple appearances on Coast to Coast AM. And I was also featured on Monsters and Mysteries in America for the Sykesville Monster episode. I've written 7 books. And like I said before, I'm currently a host of Arcane Radio.
Awesome. Well, I hope I can get you on some of my radio shows, or we're thinking about doing our own 24/7 if I can get people from around the world like I've done before with other radio stations. Or we may just use an auto DJ, but we're working on that in Texas, California, and Florida, so it'd be great to add Pennsylvania. But let's see if we can do a little bit of background on you. And I'm going to do sort of a convoluted version of you. We'll try to watch your time and tell me when you need to chop it into segments, because we can do like an oral history like I do for Jan Aldrich and UFO Association. And I have an Alien Contact Organization with Janet Carroll Lusson. And then I have Ascension Center. It's Ace Metaphysical with a metaphysician, Tommy Hawksblood, in Hawaii on another island. And let's see. Now, Tony is in Texas, and he wants to do mostly politics and editorial. But let's set up you, Paranormal Fortean expert, if you don't mind. I've got Daryl Sims in charge of our alienology. What would we call your division or department that you would be an expert? You want to, you want to just, we're separating paranormal now, like phenomenology and cosmology, where do we get started with you? For right now, you call yourself a Fortean researcher
Right.
under paranormal, right?
And that kind of covers a lot of different things. I call myself a paranormal investigator researcher for a long time, but basically being a Fortean researcher, it kind of encompasses a lot of different aspects of the paranormal. And quite frankly, in my research and in the cases I'm involved with, there always seems to be a connection between the different genres of the paranormal. There's a lot of connections, say between cryptids and UFOs and even spirits. So I kind of do a lot of different things.
So we could now. I don't want to offend you or any of your listeners, but could I safely say that you could be a part of our spiritual science community? Would that be a proper term?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay. Well, some people take offense, and some don't. So I'm always trying to figure out, because what I've seen in radio, at least, and on YouTubes and these TED Talks, is they're doing their best to keep science separate from world religions and ancient mysteries. And when I went to Chicago in 2016 to help Marta Thomas with doing our first global pyramid conference and her people getting them together, it was like they couldn't mesh everything together. But they said when I showed up, she looked at me and said, "So we're doing this?" And she was a UFO professional investigator, but she didn't want to deal with the UFO portion. She said, "No, we're not going to talk UFOs." And I was like, "Well, why am I here?" She said, "We're going to do pyramid." She says, "I want you to help me promote pyramidology." And I was like, "Okay." She said, "Well, you believe in them. You've got one on your leg and you wrote a book." I'm like, "Okay." So fortunately, we both knew Sam Asmanagich of the Bosnian pyramids, and I still hadn't gotten my book written. So let's look at who you are and how you got into this for all the young people, like my 20-year-old grandson in there. How do you get into this? Let's go back to, like, I got a psychic hit on, for some reason, wondering why I saw you in Civil War, and you said, yeah, automatically. I was like, it shocked the heck out of me, because I wasn't trying to do a psychic hit. I wasn't doing a reading or trying to get him to pay me money, okay? It's nothing like that. I just got this hit. And in my mind, I get these visions, and I saw him in the Civil War, but I couldn't make out which side he was on. So, but he automatically said you were 20-something. So tell us about you as a little boy and how you got into Gettysburg, and why would I pick up and you just automatically give me an answer? That spooked me out.
Well, I was born and raised near the Gettysburg battlefield. I spent a lot of summers as a kid on the battlefield itself. This one particular day, I used to get on my bike and ride to Gettysburg. And this one day, I was 8 years old. I was in an area of the battlefield that's called Death Valley. Now, that area in particular is between the wheat field, Devil's Den, and Little Round Top. It's a valley where there was a lot of action on the second day of the battle. So I was on my bike, and all of a sudden, it's almost like a door opened, because I started seeing apparitions, hearing gunfire, cannon fire, smelling gunpowder, the whole 9 yards. And this went on for several minutes, and then suddenly just shut down. Now, by that time, I knew that I had some abilities, but I wasn't really quite sure what it was. It's not like I lived in a haunted house or anything like that. But I could pick up on spirit energy. So I eventually learned through a regression that I did fight on the Union side, and I was at Gettysburg as a member of the 20th Maine. And I have always been attracted to that one part of the battlefield where the 20th Maine monument is. And if you know the history, of the unit that on the second day of the battle, they charged down the hill with the bayonets and fought back the North Carolina and Texas troops. It was a long day, a long battle, but very historic day. And that's apparently the unit that I was with. Now, like I said before I even knew any of this, I was attracted to that part of the battlefield. So, after all this happened, and I don't really think my parents had any idea of any of this. I never talked to them about it. And, as I got a little bit older, I started to get involved with helping people that had hauntings. Now, this was back in the mid-'70s. So, this isn't a time when, the paranormal was kind of the thing to do. I mean, people kind of looked at you like you're nuts when you told them you were involved with the paranormal. But I did that for a while. Then, as life goes on, you get married, you have kids, you start working, and you kind of get a little bit out of that. But my whole perspective on the paranormal changed in May of 1981 is when I had a Bigfoot encounter while I was fishing on the South Patapsco River near Sykesville, Maryland. And after that day, I became very involved with the cryptid aspect of the paranormal. And that's basically what I've been doing a lot of since then. I've had other encounters. I've also helped people with hauntings in the meantime. And it got to the point where all those years I was taking reports, talking to people, keeping notes of cases I was working on. And it eventually accumulated into when I started my blog in 2005, and I started looking into other people's reports. Of course, with the advent of the internet, it was much easier to do this. And it kind of snowballed from there, and that's where we are at this point.
Well, can you confirm or deny, I don't know how you want to say this, that you have never talked to me, or have we ever talked? Or did you know me or anything about me or anything that would make me think that you and I are connected in this reality?
No, I knew you were on LinkedIn as someone who was, associated me with LinkedIn, but you and I never talked. We never communicated until the day you contacted me.
So what is that? Because that's what I'm studying. I like humanity and human behavior and neuropsychology, phenomenology, but my specialty was, as an investigator, was just getting the facts for rich attorneys on cases. And the offshore oil rigs, even death, accidents. I worked mostly personal injury and maritime law and arson, fraud, subrogation, fires. So when I was a well-paid investigator before I went in the military. But as a child, I went to Jackson. I lived in Monroe and went across to Vicksburg. And I started crying because I was having visions. Of course, my mother was like a psychic, but she would never admit that. I just know that she died eating peach pits or whatever that stuff was inside there, and she got deathly ill, and her and her brother both, and she had like an out-of-body experience. But I didn't learn that till she was in the late 60s, and Stanton Friedman was calling me, and then I got to be on a ABC taping, and she took the call. So I sat down with her at the table and asked her if she remembered me, going back in Vicksburg. I said, Mom, you remember when you talked to me about crying and how you were really concerned about me with my dad? We were having a family picnic in Vicksburg, and I was seeing all these people, and I was like, I see dead people, Lon, okay? Like you did. Mm-hmm. And she didn't understand it, and she was just really shocked. I said, do you remember that? She said, yeah. And she said that's when they were putting I-20 through, and they were moving